Hi, I'm Kate Warren, here with your fourth key to great communication. I thought it might be most helpful for you if we made sure to have a key that specifically addressed the idea of public speaking or presenting. Did you know that for most people the fear of public speaking is greater than the fear of death? So in my business there's an old joke that goes, at the funeral, most people would rather be in the coffin than delivering the eulogy. They're that scared to stand up and speak in front of other people. And if that's you, it's important to know that you're not alone. I think it's also important to know that there are some really simple things that you can do to increase the quality of your presenting. They're not difficult, they're not challenging, they're not about what you're saying, they're just about how you're saying it. And I'm going to give you an example here that's going to amaze you about the difference between okay presenting and great presenting. You're going to be really, really surprised at the simple difference that this is going to make for you. So you'll be able to use this tip every time you stand up to speak. It's also going to be helpful for you when you're sitting down. There is a sitting down variation of this that I'll explain to you. And the key thing here is to think about your stance when you're presenting. Now, you can't see my legs in this video, so I'm going to tell you what I'm doing at the moment, and then I'm going to demonstrate recommended, not recommended. So the way I'm speaking to you now is the recommended stance for public speaking, and that is I'm standing with my weight evenly planted on both my feet. Now, your feet can be reasonably close together. Mine are a few inches apart at the moment. If I move them a few inches further apart, that's almost even better, because then your weight is really centered going down through your legs. Now, the key thing here is if you want to present with impact, you need to stand like this. Yet what do many of us do? Well, I'm going to start showing you as I'm talking through the next part of what I'm doing. So what many of us do is we tend to, especially if we're female, put our weight on one hip, and then, we kind of shift it to the other hip while we're talking. And although you can't see my hips, you can tell that's happening because you can see the movement, and one shoulder rises and one shoulder falls. And sometimes even those of us who know better, we might be standing on our own two legs properly, as I'm doing now, and yet we get this kind of wiggle happening in our hips when we talk. And what tends to happen, and I'm sure you're beginning to notice, is that all this wiggling, it's really distracting away from the message, and it's making it hard for you to hear what I'm saying. And let me tell you, I'm not even pacing yet, and I know many of you will feel a terrible urge to walk around when you're talking. So notice how all this wiggling that's happening and this shifting the weight from side to side, it's really just the most massive distraction that makes it hard for you to hear what I'm saying. Yet when I stand straight on my own two legs, just properly weight center, notice how everything changes. And suddenly my communication has impact, right? Now, I'm not even using my hands. I'm not walking. I'm not doing anything fancy with my face or with my voice. It's really just the difference between this kind of wiggling and lurching and slouching and this kind of stuff that we see people do all the time versus standing correctly. Notice what happens when you stand correctly. It's not just that my weight's evenly placed between my legs. When I do that, the tummy goes in, always good. The chin goes down slightly, the head goes back on the neck slightly, and suddenly I just look a whole lot more credible. When I do this, I might look friendly, but I look casual and I look wiggly, and it's super distracting. See the difference? So, what should you do if you're a chronic wiggler, when you know that you wiggle when you present? Well, the first thing to say is that's not going to change overnight. You're wiggling and you're shifting your weight is part of how you're discharging your nervous energy, and you're going to need to get rid of that energy some other way. I'm going to suggest use that energy to really animate your voice when you're speaking. If you're not really capable of getting a lot of control over the wiggling and the jiggling, that's fine. Here's an idea for you then. Think about the key messages in your presentation. Live with the wiggling most of the way through, and when you go to make your point, that's your moment when you want to stand correctly with your weight evenly placed between your legs. And then you can go back to wiggling again because it's natural for you. So start initially with concentrating on delivering your really key points credibly and professionally, and live with the wiggling the rest of the time. But on the whole, you want to be mastering your wiggling and be capable of delivering like this. Now, here's the thing for you to notice. I'm standing up as I record this video, but you can't really see below my shoulders, and yet you still know when I'm doing it, don't you? So actually the sitting down version of this works as well. Now, if you're sitting in a chair in a meeting, what's the equivalent of this? Well, the best possible posture for delivering correctly during a meeting when you have a key point to make is to sit on the front half of your chair with your back straight, your chin in slightly, and your elbows off the table. Your voice is going to sound better. You're not going to slouch and collapse in. It's just all going to be better for you if you can stay sitting up straight in the chair. Now, realistically, depending where you work, it might look a little weird if you sat ramrod straight all the way through your meeting, perched on the front of your chair, elbows off, poised to make a contribution. So again, it's a bit like the equivalent of the wiggling, sitting more casually in your chair, crossing your legs, resting your arm on things, elbows on the table, leaning forward. You know, that's all part of communicating, and just pull yourself up to give your key message that you really, really want to be heard by the group. Now again, if you don't know how you tend to behave when you speak, you've got the option of doing what I'm doing and recording yourself and watching it back. That can be a hideous experience, I can tell you from personal experience, but it's a great way to help you learn. You'll also find one-to-one coaching really helpful for this, and seeking feedback from the people around you. If you go to seek feedback from the people around you, make sure you're really clear with them about the kind of feedback you want, and do protect your ego. None of us really need to be savaged when we're trying to improve our communication skills. So if, say, you ask a colleague to help you improve your performance, be really clear about what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear from them. I hope you found this useful. This is just one tip about presenting. Stand with your weight evenly placed on both legs. There's lots more for you. Do be sure to visit the website, www.brightconsultancy.com. You'll find a lot there to support your learning. I'm also always interested to hear from people who'd like to improve in this area. So do feel free to drop me a line via the website and get in touch. I'd be delighted to work with you to help you. Until the next time, bye-bye.